Hey everyone, and welcome. Let's jump right into this intensive bilingual vocabulary masterclass explainer. If you're a CELPIP candidate aiming for that elusive CLB 9 or higher, you are in the exact right place. Today we're going to break down the highly specific, advanced vocabulary that Canadian examiners are actively listening and reading for. Mastering these exact terms, along with their precise Canadian context, is literally your direct path to a top-tier score. I'm going to pronounce each word clearly twice, give you the exact Chinese translation, and then show you exactly how to deploy it on test day. Let's get started.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering equipment and tech failures, research and data analysis, concepts in natural sciences, and finally, materials, physics, and application.
All right, Section 1, Equipment and Tech Failures. This is absolutely crucial for writing Task 1 and speaking Task 8.
Capacity. The Chinese translation is 容量,能力. So what's really interesting here is how Canadians actually use this word in daily life. Sure, you can talk about the storage capacity of your laptop not being able to handle a large program, but if you really want to impress the examiner, use it to complain about public services. In Canada, it's extremely common to hear someone say, the hospital is running at full capacity, which just means the emergency room is completely full and wait times are huge. You can also apply it to public transit. Drop the phrase at full capacity into a CELPIP complaint letter and watch your lexical resource score skyrocket.
Mechanism, meaning 机制, 机械装置. You know, this is a brilliant word because of its versatility. You can use it abstractly, like a coping mechanism for stress or a funding mechanism at a university. But for CELPIP, you'll want to map this perfectly to speaking Task 8 when you have to describe a broken item. Instead of just saying, the lock is broken, tell the examiner, the locking mechanism on this suitcase is completely broken. It demonstrates precision and a really advanced command of the English language. Malfunction. This translates to 发生故障, 失灵. Okay, the crucial takeaway here is this. Stop using the word broken. Malfunction is a massive vocabulary upgrade. Think about the Canadian cultural context for a second. Our winters are brutally cold, right? A classic, highly relatable scenario for your writing Task 1 complaint letter is a heating failure. You could write, I am writing to report that the heating system or furnace in my apartment has severely malfunctioned. That paints a vivid, very Canadian picture and it scores incredibly well.
Thermometer. The Chinese meaning is ondoji, and this word brilliantly illustrates a very specific Canadian quirk. Canadians are basically obsessed with checking the weather, so you will often read the thermometer. But here's the trick for your exam. In Canada, we use Celsius for our daily weather outside, like, a freezing -20 degrees. However, mostly due to American influence, we actually use Fahrenheit when setting our kitchen ovens, or sometimes when talking about swimming pool temperatures. Mentioning this distinction in a speaking task, that shows deep cultural fluency.
Moving right along to Section 2, Research and Data Analysis. These are your core signposts for reading Part 4.
Experiment. In Chinese, 实验. This is the foundational action word in any lab-based reading passage. You don't just do an experiment, you conduct or perform an experiment to test if a hypothesis is true. So when you see this word in reading Part 4 or hear it in the listening modules, you immediately know researchers are actively testing a theory.
Analyze. To translate directly, 分析. Now, while this is super common in biology labs where scientists analyze brain cells, let's tie this directly to the Canadian workplace. CELPIP loves workplace scenarios. It's incredibly high frequency to talk about your manager asking you to analyze the market trends or analyze the results of a recent sales campaign. Stick to these verb-noun pairings to sound like a native professional. Variable. This is 变量 for the noun and 多变的 for the adjective. In a science reading passage, you'll definitely see uncontrollable variables that mess up an experiment. But let's look at the Canadian social context. Real estate is a daily conversation topic here in Canada. So if you get a speaking or writing prompt about housing or finance, discussing the difference between a variable mortgage rate and a fixed rate is top-tier vocabulary. It shows you truly understand Canadian daily life.
Hypothesize. The meaning here is 假设, 假定. Quick warning for you though, watch out for the spelling of this word in your writing tasks. It can be pretty tricky. In reading Part 4, this is your ultimate clue word.
When the text says, scientists hypothesize that, it is directly introducing an academic viewpoint or a proposed explanation before they actually test it. Highlighting this word mentally will absolutely help you answer those tricky, what is the researcher's main argument questions.
Theory. Theory. This translates to 理论,学说. Yes, you have scientific theories like Einstein's theory of special relativity, but I want to teach you a golden workplace phrase for the CELPIP exam. When you're doing a speaking task that requires you to disagree with a colleague respectfully, use this exact phrase. In theory, that sounds great, but in practice, this is a phenomenal concession structure that guarantees maximum lexical and grammatical points.
All right, Section 3, Concepts in Natural Sciences. We are going to master advanced reading topics here.
Discipline. Discipline. The translation is 学习,领域,纪律. Okay, watch out, because there is a massive CELPIP trap here. Most people only know discipline as punishment or maintaining rules in a classroom. But in academic reading passages, it almost always means a field of study, like biology or chemistry being scientific disciplines. You might also see the advanced word interdisciplinary, which means cross-disciplinary. Do not get tricked by this dual meaning.
Cognition. Cognition. This translates to 认识,认识能力. This is a really high-end reading core word involving mental processes. You're going to see phrases like human cognition or cognitive skills. In the Canadian social context, this word frequently pops up in news articles, which, by the way, CELPIP loves to adapt, concerning early childhood education, or, on the other end of the spectrum, discussions about elderly dementia and cognitive decline.
Organism. Organism. The exact translation is 生物,有机体. This is your foundation for any plant or animal reading article, but let's anchor it to everyday Canadian grocery shopping. A massive ongoing debate in Canada regarding food safety is all about GMOs. What does that stand for? Genetically modified organisms. Dropping the term GMO or genetically modified organism into a writing task about food policy will immediately flag you to the grader as an advanced CLB 9+ candidate. And that brings us to Section 4, Materials, Physics, and Application, covering environmental and product topics. Synthetic. Synthetic. This means 构成的,人造的. Think about synthetic materials or synthetic fibers. Let's relate this to a classic Canadian shopping debate. When you're buying a heavy winter jacket here, you are constantly comparing natural down insulation versus synthetic insulation. If you get a task asking you to compare two products, using synthetic to describe imitation or man-made materials is just a fantastic way to secure top marks.
Conduct. Conduct. In Chinese, this is 传导,实施,执行. Honestly, this word is incredibly versatile. In a physics reading passage, copper will conduct electricity. But for your writing task 2, which is almost always a survey response, you should write, the city conducted a survey. Furthermore, in a Canadian workplace context, every single employee signs a code of conduct detailing rules and behavior. Make sure you know all 3 of these applications.
Invention. Invention. The translation is 发明,创造. We're wrapping up our core words with a term that is often tied to Canadian pride. CLPP reading passages frequently highlight great Canadian inventions. They absolutely love talking about how insulin, the telephone, and even the sport of basketball were Canadian creations. Recognizing this cultural pride is going to give you great context when you're reading these historical or technological passages.
So that wraps up our Masterclass Explainer. You've now got this highly curated, exam-tested arsenal of vocabulary. But listen, just knowing these words isn't enough. You actually have to apply them. So here's my challenge to you. How are you going to deploy words like capacity, malfunction, or mechanism in your very next CLP mock test to guarantee that CLB 9+? Don't just memorize them. Use them in your writing, speak them aloud in your practice tasks, and actively hunt for them in the reading texts. Keep practicing, stay focused, and go get that top score.